What should you do when you finished your manuscript and you're ready to have your book published? Well, you have to make a decision initially. The first decision you have to make is whether you're going to traditionally publish or you're going to self publish. And there is a difference, and you need to weigh the pros and cons of each and see which is a better fit for your personality. Um, if you go traditional, here's a few things you need to know. With the exception of small independent publishers, the majority of publishers or publishing houses require you to have a literary agent, and they require you to send them a book proposal through that literary agent. Now, the process is different slightly for every writer who's trying to get in, but the basic premise is that they get so many queries from people or people sending them their books that they want them to publish, that the agents are sort of a vanguard to filter out a lot of the riffraff and the people who aren't really serious. So a literary agent is someone, you don't just hire them. You have to send them what's called a query letter. And there's lots of great information out there that's free on how to write a query letter. Heck, you can even Google it. I mean, we live in the age of information and free information at that. So it's very easy to find out or to find a sample of a query letter and to play with it and do it yourself. Or if you have the budget for it, you can hire a professional writer to actually write it for you. Um, Now we have the second alternative. There's two. There's traditional and there's self-publishing. I should mention also, once a literary agent accepts your manuscript and they are interested in it, then the process becomes them taking it to companies and seeing, you know, who's interested and who would be the best buyer to sell your book. They're like an agent, if you ever, like a sports agent for an athlete or any kind of agent. They except an FBI agent, but they basically have inside contacts to publishing houses, and they know the people who are looking for the type of book that they have. Um, Now, one thing about agents you should pay attention to, if they ask you for money up front to read, it's called a reading fee. If they ask you for a reading fee, then get out of there now. They shouldn't be charging you a reading fee. An agent makes their money on the back end. Their money comes from when they land you a deal, they get a percentage of that publishing contract, or what they call an advance. And an advance is the money that you're given up front by a company based on how many books they think that you will sell. So that's a little few things that you should know about going the traditional way, that it's a lot more work than just having the manuscript. I think some people have this fantasy that they're just sitting around twiddling their thumbs at the publishing companies going, okay, just send us a book and they'll just publish any and everything. And it doesn't work that way. You can ask the millions of writers or the thousands of writers who have their rejection piles on their desk of work they sent in. And so you're going to have to go into phase two. A lot of people think, well, I finished the actual book I'm done. And you've only just begun, because it's not about just writing a great book. That's a key component. But if you're going to go the traditional way, now you have to convince people that this book is worth paying money for. You have to convince a literary agent that this is a project worthy. You have to convince a publishing house that this is something that they would pay you in advance for and produce and put their name on your book. So your work is ahead of you, and that's something that you need to take into consideration. Is that something that you want to do? And one more thing, once you have a literary agent, and an agent, you sent them a query letter and they ask to see more, because that's usually what happens. They'll contact you and let you know that they're interested and they would like to see more of your book. You would need to have something called a book proposal. And it's basically, in the publishing business, that's the equivalent of a marketing plan. There's plenty of free information on a book proposal. I actually have, I'll have a link underneath the video for my book, a free book that you can download from my website on the publishing business. It's also for people who are first-time authors looking to, hire a ghostwriter and the ins and outs of that. But I also go into detail about the traditional publishing route and the non-traditional, aka indie publishing, aka self-publishing. So the book proposal, and I explain it in my book that that's an art to it, and you're basically giving them, depending on if it's a fiction book or a nonfiction book. If it's nonfiction, they want to know who you are, what your bio is, sample chapters of all the chapters, uh, and a financial marketing plan, like how you plan to uh, market the book, what audience you're targeting, um, and pretty much what wins them over is, and I guess I should do that in another video because that's a whole other topic. But just know for now that you would need to have, a marketing plan and an audience who would be interested in the book. They'd like to know if they're going to produce the book and package it, that there's an audience already waiting for the book. So that's the traditional route. Now, self-publishing is, the key word there is self. And it is going to be you who is responsible for all of the things that need to be done, including the marketing. And what most people don't know, and they get discouraged by this, is that marketing the book, whether you go to a publishing house or you do it yourself, is still up to you. That is going to fall on your shoulders. Publishing companies, for the most part, don't, do that work for you. And that's a little secret people find out, you know. And that's also a reason why a lot of people have chosen to go the self-publishing route, because they figure if you're going to take such a big cut out of book sales, you figure you would actually be helping to market the book. So they don't find it to be worth the investment financially. And so that's something that you need to know, in making your decision. Self-publishing, you are responsible for editing the book, formatting the book, and the technical part of publishing the book. That's the that could be looked as the downside. That could be looked at as the downside of self-publishing, where with traditional, the company will take care of all of that stuff, the book cover, the back of the book, the artwork, the formatting. They'll print it out and publish it, things of that nature. And with a traditional publisher, they have editors, in-house editors. So the down and the upside to it is that the editorial staff they have, they will edit your book. Depending on you and what you're looking for, that could be a plus or minus. Um, if you do it self-publishing, however, you still want your book to look professional. And the publishing houses, they do to their credit make it look easy. And we get so used to seeing books already on the shelf or already on Amazon.com, and it just looks like, oh, well, it just magically happens. And there's a lot of technical things that go into it on the business end of things, and just the printing and the cover art, making sure that the book is formatted, and proofread. So those things you would need to either do yourself if you're able to, or hire, contract with people to edit your book, and and to proofread it, and to your book cover art. If you're good with graphic design, then that would be fine. But if you're not, then you would need to acquire some help to have someone design your book cover and the back of the book for you. And you would need to have a synopsis. And my recommendation, if you've never done it before, is to look at other published books and to see what it looks like, how it's formatted, um, what the margins are on the book. I had a client who he did it himself and printed it out, and it looked terrible. He had someone do it, but they didn't know what they were doing, because there was no space between the top of the page and the first sentence, and it was just awful. So just make sure that you have a qualified person to do that for you. And if you're selling on an online store like Amazon with Kindle or Nook, uh, there's certain formats. Like if you have a Word file on Microsoft Word, and you want to upload it, there are things that you need to do for it to upload and correctly. You need to convert the file most commonly into what they call EPUB file. So that's something that you may need help with, because that's something that usually a company would take care of and you wouldn't think about. So get that information and find there are people you can hire to do that for you. Um, so with that said, that's pretty much what I want to share this morning on both of those. This is just kind of like a fireside chat. Just how wanting to help people to figure out what to do next when they get that book that they always dreamed of finishing finished, and what the next step is, and really the technical part of what you need to do. And with that being said, I am the writingpreneur. You can follow me on Twitter at RightSideUp, W with a W, and my website is thewritingpreneur.com. This is Helen. Until next time, writing is your voice, so be heard.